Welcome everyone to another episode of OTA on the Road. With us today is Ferzan Ahmed, who is the Executive Director of the Ohio Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission, and we're happy to have him on with us today. Ferzan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to be the Executive Director of the Turnpike Commission?
Hi, good afternoon, Tom. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be on your show. And our business, the Ohio Turnpike, is a publicly managed business, and some of our best customers are the truck drivers. So appreciate you guys. So it's a pleasure for me to be here. By education, I am an engineer. I started my career back in 1992 at ODOT. And the gentleman who hired me at ODOT as a trainee is someone you've had on your show. That would be the current director of ODOT, Mr. Marchbanks. So I worked at ODOT District 6 for about a little more than 23 years. Later on through my career, I became the deputy director of District 6, which is Central Ohio. I left in 2016 and became the county administrator of Delaware County, complete U-turn. So at the district, it was nothing but infrastructure. At the county, it was everything but infrastructure. So I'm dealing with taxes, ambulances, judges, parole officers. So it was really good. It was really good to get to know that side of government. And after some time, I decided to go to the private sector. And I worked for AECOM, which is an international firm, and I was the head of their Ohio operations. Always been a fan of Governor Mike DeWine, at that time Attorney General Mike DeWine. So when the governor won his gubernatorial campaign and became the governor, I wanted to work in the administration. I applied for a position in the administration, and I was honored to be nominated to be the Turnpike Director. How it works is the governor nominates and then the commission votes. And that's how I ended up coming back into government, and this time at the Ohio Turnpike, which was also another wonderful new experience for me, going from Central Ohio to Northern Ohio and learning all about Cleveland and Toledo and Youngstown and all the other wonderful small towns in between. And now I'm back to infrastructure, so I like it.
That's good. That's good. Well, we talked a little bit in the pre-show about COVID and its impacts, and we really can't have a conversation without starting with that topic. So tell us a little bit about how the Turnpike responded to the pandemic.
Absolutely. So back in March, when we started thinking about what's going to happen here, it all depended on who you were going to listen to. There were certain reports that would tell you that this was nothing more than a flu. And there were other reports that made it look like this was going to be Armageddon combined with the Great Depression. So we didn't know what we were going to do here. Obviously, we relied on guidance that came from the governor's office. But internally, because as I mentioned earlier, that we are a government-operated business, we had conversations internally, myself, our CFO, and a couple of other people. All right, what are we going to do here? How are we going to survive this? And we looked at two scenarios. The first scenario being that this is temporary. We're going to take a hit, but then things will come back. In order for us to be able to function that way, did we have enough money in our reserves to just take the punch and then roll with it? The second scenario was that this is indeed going to be Armageddon and the Great Depression. And keeping that in mind, we said, okay, how are we going to respond? We said, let's look at it logically. If this is Armageddon and the Great Depression, we got bigger things to worry about than managing the Turnpike. So let's not even worry about that. Let's assume that this is going to be temporary. There's going to be a few months of hits. And then we will come back. So let's work under that assumption. And under that assumption, what are going to be our priorities? You have to have priorities. Like, what are the one or two things we got to do? Number one, we have to stay open. You cannot get from Pennsylvania to Indiana, from New York to Chicago, freight, your business or our business, unless you're going through the Ohio Turnpike. We are an essential part of the infrastructure. We got to stay open, but we got to keep our people as well as our customers safe. So those two became our top two and only priorities. We said everything else comes later on. Let's just maintain those two. In order for us to be able to provide both of those services in the best way possible, we decided that we would separate our employees into teams. So where you had 20 people working together, we decided it's going to be 10 people at a time. 10 people working one week, 10 people working the other week. That way we kept them socially distanced and separated. Also, in case somebody got infected and a bunch of people had to be quarantined, we still had a reserve team to come in. However, we kept everybody employed, full pay. It was not their fault. This was a decision we made operationally. And the other thing we did was we made sure that we kept on collecting our tools. And that's where I have to give a huge shout out to our tool collectors. There were a lot of concerns. We've got people coming from all over the country, perhaps even from Canada, another country, or from Mexico that are going through the Ohio Turnpike. What kind of germs are they carrying? And those were legitimate concerns. But our message was, we are going to get through this together, keep everybody employed, so we have to keep the business going. So we did everything we could from a PPE, protective equipment perspective, and keeping our employees safe. And our employees came through by continuing to function. On the service plaza side, we looked at it from two perspectives. Number one, truck drivers have to stop somewhere, gas up, and so on. Number two, safety. We thought that stopping at a proper, safe facility is not just about comfort, but it's also about safety. So, we made sure that each and every one of our 14 service plazas was open. Obviously, the food choices had become quite limited, but something was available, whether it was a vending machine or whether it was just a convenience store type environment. And then we made sure that the showers and the truckers' facilities were clean. We ramped up the cleaning services. So instead of cleaning the entire service plaza, we concentrated just on the bathrooms and the truckers' lounge and just increased the frequency. And that's how we adapted to the COVID rules of operations.
So talk to us a little bit about the breakdown between commercial trucks and passenger vehicles on the use of the Turnpike and what impacts that has on the way y'all make decisions.
Absolutely. So given that we are a major east to west route, all the way from New York to Chicago, and given the powerhouse status of Ohio as a logistics state, trucking is a huge part not only of our industry, but of the Turnpike. And as I said, we are a business, so that's a great segment of our customers are the truck drivers. If you look at strictly numbers, about 21.5–22% of the vehicles that are on the road are semis, tractor trailers. But if you look at miles driven, that increases. So 33% of the miles driven on the Ohio Turnpike are truck drivers. In an average year, I'm gonna pull my best Dr. Evil from Austin Powers impersonation. In an average year, there are 3 billion miles driven on the Ohio Turnpike, and 1 billion of those 3 billion miles are driven by truck drivers. And the other 2/3 are passengers. Obviously, at the height of the pandemic, March, April, maybe a little bit into May, we did see quite a bit of a decline in the truck traffic on the Ohio Turnpike. I believe at its highest, the decline was around 18%. Right now, though, we're back and we're good. Right now, truck traffic has actually increased by about 4.5%. But it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, if we are home, we are shopping more at home. Every neighborhood you look at, you've got a FedEx truck or an Amazon truck delivering deliveries. And where are they all coming from? They're all coming on the trucks, hopefully through the Ohio Turnpike.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of an interesting statistic given the fact that, here in Ohio, when you talk about the total vehicle miles traveled, trucks only account for 10 to 11%. To have it be at a 33% on the Turnpike just shows the efficiency of that route for the movement of freight. So that's good to know. So I guess, how is that compared to prior years? Have you seen an increase in the vehicle miles traveled on the Turnpike over the course of time? What has that impact been? And, you talked a little bit about COVID, how it dropped. But, what are you seeing as far as passenger vehicles use of the Turnpike during COVID?
Absolutely. So in an average year, we usually project about 10 years out, and we're pretty conservative in our projections. And we also project that the traffic is going to go up just a little bit. It's a very small number, 1 to 2%, because Ohio is not growing that much. Truck traffic has increased over the years. One of the reasons is we are the only route in Ohio that allows triples. You see a lot of doubles on I-71 and elsewhere, but the Turnpike is the only route in Ohio that allows triples, and that's why we've got so many breakdown lots. And that actually also goes back to a previous question you asked me. how do we make our decisions keeping in mind our truck drivers and those customers? Well, that's one of our decision making factors. We stay in touch with trucking companies that are close to the turnpike or that drive the turnpike a lot and have contact with us, and we keep in touch with them in terms of making sure that there are adequate facilities in terms of their breakdown and putting up those doubles and triples together on the turnpike. We also pride ourselves in being among the lowest in the Midwest when it comes to the tolls that truck drivers have to pay. Obviously, trucks are heavy and they do take a toll, no pun intended, on the roadway. And we have to keep our road nice and smooth for everyone. That also goes towards safety. So we do a lot of work on the turnpike, but we have been very efficient. We are very judicious with the amount of money that we spend and how we spend that money, because we do want to make sure that people don't feel that it is a burden on them to drive on the Ohio Turnpike. The numbers have typically been pretty consistent for us prior to COVID. Now, let's look at COVID specifically. If you look at 2020 versus 2019, and we look at these numbers on a daily basis, actually, January and February of 2020 were higher than 2019, both in terms of vehicle miles driven as well as revenue for us. Now, on the revenue side, several years ago, a resolution was passed where tolls would increase by, I believe, 2.3% for 10 years. So we have that very modest 2.3% increase that goes into effect in January. And that did go into effect, so that also helped with the revenue. Starting March, we started seeing a decline. And at the height of the pandemic, I'm going to actually refer to my notes here so I can give you accurate numbers. At the height of the pandemic, which was April, the revenue change decline was about 35%. 35%. Now that's huge. Of that 35%, the number of the passenger vehicles, the number of vehicles was almost 70% less than the previous year. I'm talking about April of 2020 versus April of 2019. And the truck traffic was about 20% less than last year. So, and that translated to a revenue decline of almost 35% that I talked about. So that was the worst month we had. And since April, it has been steadily coming back up. From April to May, May 2020 to May 2019, the decline was about 26%. And October, last month, when last month finished, our decline was only 0.5%. That's revenue, only 0.5% in revenue. So we call that almost a break-even point. Now, if we break it down to trucks versus passenger vehicles are still down somewhere between 15 to 20%, but the truck traffic has gone up by about 4%. Now, as far as traffic, as a passenger traffic being down, and that's because so many companies have adjusted to a remote working schedule. And since more and more people are home, more and more people are shopping at home, and that's where I believe the increased freight numbers are coming from. I do believe that the decline in passenger traffic will continue at least through 2021. Hopefully it won't go too much into 2022. But the reason for that is so many companies have made the decision to allow certain people to work from home. It's convenient for people. It's also, if I were to open a small business right now with 15 or 20 people, I'd have to go rent some real estate and pay all that overhead. If I can manage all of that by allowing people to work from their homes, I'd probably do that. So I can see why companies are doing that. So that is something we all have to be mindful of.
Yeah, without question. I think the way we work is going to change significantly here in the next couple of years, and we've seen that. In fact, I had thrown up a statistic in one of my sessions a few months ago that we have seen 10 years worth of penetration rate increase for online shopping in the past 3 months. They got 10 years of growth in 3 months. So it's pretty amazing how things have been forced to change in that regard and how it impacts your business. So let's talk a little bit about future projects that the Turnpike has in the pipeline, things that that you're still going to be moving forward with, regardless of the revenue impacts. So what sort of projects do you have on the list for future improvements to the Turnpike?
Absolutely. Now, because of the fact that we take pride in the condition of our road and our bridges, we have a pretty robust pavement resurfacing as well as pavement replacement program, and that is going to continue. And every year we also redeck several bridges, because our bridges go back to the original construction of the Turnpike, which was in 1955. So that plan is going to continue. That robust maintenance program is going to continue. The biggest project that we started this year is our new toll collection system. So I'll briefly talk about the toll collection system. When people think toll collection system, people are typically thinking there's a toll booth, you put a person in there, there's a machine, you take a ticket and you do a transaction. But that's only what people see. The toll collection system itself is a massive mixture of software and hardware with a back office function, which is not unlike how a bank processes your credit cards. It's a huge undertaking. Every turnpike has it, every toll road has it. Our turnpike is 241 miles. So basically we have a system that is tying 245 miles of road together electronically. So think of it that way. So this is huge for us. We have started that system this year. We started back in June. We were going to start in April, but because of the pandemic, we delayed it by a couple of months. We wanted to make sure that we would be able to financially take this undertaking. But this is a 3-year undertaking, so we can spread it out over 3 years and financially handle it. What this is going to do, it's going to completely upgrade our current toll collection system. And at the end, it's actually going to be good news for truck drivers who go through Ohio. What we have seen through surveys and through customer service and through experience and talking to other turnpikes is that people prefer not to stop if they don't want to. That's obvious. If you're going from point A to point B, you want to make those stops when you want to make those stops, not when you have to make those stops to collect a toll. So right now, if you're coming from Pennsylvania into Ohio or coming from Indiana into Ohio, you have to stop and go through our toll gates. We call them East Gate and West Gate. East Gate is at East End near Pennsylvania. West Gate is right there next to Indiana. When our new toll collection system goes into effect, customers who have an Easy Pass will be able to go right through the Ohio Turnpike without stopping. And customers who don't have an Easy Pass, we would prefer that they went off to the side, because we will have a separate way for them to get on the Turnpike, which will have toll booths as well as people as well as machines. But if they miss that, then we will have the system that you see in some other states, where they can read your image, where you can read the license plate and then send you the bill. We call this the ORT, open road trucking, open tolling system. Our current system is a gated system. There are some systems that don't allow any kind of stoppage. Those are known as all electronic tolling. We are doing a hybrid system, which is open road tolling, because the open road tolling gives you the option. You have an Easy Pass, keep going. If you don't have the Easy Pass, get off and get the ticket. That serves several purposes. One purpose it serves is it allows us to keep our toll collectors employed. That's very important. We don't want to go through massive layoffs for the sake of technology if we can avoid it. You can never get in the way of technology. We all know that. We have seen that throughout our lives. But our toll collection system gives us the perfect balance in preserving the jobs of our very important team members, as well as giving our customers the service that they need. The second aspect of why we are doing the way we are doing is, if we completely remove all gates, and if people who don't have Easy Passes are people that we have to, for lack of a better word, chase, then we are turning into a collection agency, and that's inefficient. We are not a collection agency, we are a toll agency. So I think that we have a really good system. We have a really good system going up, and it will be another 2.5 years before it's implemented. But 2.5 years go fast, as you know, and I know. So when we are done, it's going to be a much better system for the truck drivers. So that's on the toll collection side. There is one other project I wanted to mention that will be of interest to your listeners who like technology. many states are looking at unused land. When you have interstates, when you have roads like ours, there's always unused land. There might be 5-acre remnant or a 10-acre remnant from when the original purchase was made, and that land just sits there. And what some states have started doing, it all started with Georgia and other states are doing it, is they are trying to work with a electricity provider in their area to convert it into a solar field. There's very little investment or no investment on part of the infrastructure provider. Our investment is our unused land. And what's in it for us? Well, if we have a facility right next to it, well, hopefully we'll get free energy. And what's in it for the developer? Well, they get to sell the energy. So we are currently in the process of looking at whether that's feasible at the Ohio Turnpike. The first step is to issue a request for information, and we're getting ready to do that. Hopefully we'll have some interest from people. And if it looks good, then we will actually issue a request for a proposal and try to pursue that. So stay tuned. Hopefully you'll see some solar fields at the Ohio Turnpike.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So, you talked a little bit about the toll plazas, and we had that set as one of the questions that we were going to talk about. So on East and West Gate, is that something that, because right now you can have an easy pass, but you still have to slow down to, 5 miles an hour? Are there plans to keep them at highway speed? Is there plans to, I guess, what is the plans as far as the out efficiency move for that collection?
Absolutely. So when we have completely implemented our system, which is going to be another 2 years from now, the plan will be for anyone who has an easy pass to go right through the Ohio Turnpike at highway speeds.
Okay.
There will be gantries. There will be gantries with sensors, and those sensors will either be able to read the easy pass at highway speed or take the picture, the image of the license plate at highway speed, and then we can bill those people. But as I said, our preference would be that people who don't have the easy pass would veer off to the side and go through the gate and get the ticket.
Yeah, without question. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that any toll road has is being able to collect from those folks who don't have any sort of identification whatsoever, to be able to get after that, and what are collectible tolls and what aren't collectible tolls. I think that's always a big challenge for you all. So the less time you have chasing people down to pay a toll that for a road that they use once in a lifetime, it would be better. That's definitely good. So let's talk a little bit about the service plazas. Commend you for the work that you all did and your employees did during COVID to keep those open. That was, I think, one of the initial phone calls I had made when this all started to you all to talk a little bit about whether rest areas are going to be open or whatnot. And I think that was first words out of your mouth was, we're keeping them open, before I even asked the question. So I guess talk a little bit about what sort of additional services that you are looking at offering at the service plazas as those continue to develop, and any sort of plans you have with the service plazas moving forward.
Absolutely. I do remember that conversation, Tom. We talked about that, and I know you had some concerns about where the truck drivers would be able to safely stop and eat and use the restroom and rest. It's part of safety as well. So, we have 14 service plazas on the Ohio Turnpike. For those of your listeners who have traveled on the Ohio Turnpike and used the service plazas, I'm going to boast, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if there are better service plazas in the United States of America, please point them out, because we'd like to go take a look at them. I haven't seen any. So credit to our service plaza staff and our maintenance staff for keeping them that way. So first of all, it's a very inviting atmosphere. As I mentioned, we are a business that is operated by a government agency or a government entity. But basically, we are trying to get people in. So it's a very inviting atmosphere. You park, there's plenty of parking, and our parking is free. A lot of service plazas charge for parking. We don't. Our parking is free. First come, first serve. Hopefully, there's still plenty of parking for truck drivers to be able to park. And our service plazas have a lot of different amenities in terms of food choices. There are, but these are concessions. So it's a business. Concessionaires have a deal with us where they have to provide us a guaranteed return on sales. And because of COVID, because of the fact that the customer, remember I mentioned that the passenger traffic went down almost 70% back in April, and it has come back to within 20%. Even though the numbers are up, People are still creatures of habit, and some people are afraid to get out and mingle. So the number of customers going in has decreased. Therefore, many of our concessionaires, understandably, have reduced the level of service that they provide. So whereas a McDonald's may have been open 24 hours, maybe it's not open 24 hours anymore. Having said that, something is always open. We couldn't force them to stay open. There's also a labor issue. If people are afraid to come to work, it's hard for concessionaires to keep them staffed 24 hours. All of these are issues that we have to work with. And again, throughout all of that, we said, okay, what are our priorities? We cannot solve every problem in the pandemic, but what is it that we must provide in the pandemic? Service plazas got to stay open. Check, we got it. They've got to stay clean because truck drivers need a place where they can be comfortable, do their business in a clean and hygienic environment. So for that, we reached out to our providers of the cleaning services. These are concessionaires. I'm sorry, these are private companies that we contract with, and they have done a wonderful job. So since we decreased the size of the area that they need to clean by limiting some areas in the service plazas, we increased the frequency. So it was a good compromise, and they worked with us. So for example, we were cleaning showers after each use. So every time a truck driver goes in showers, comes out, somebody goes and cleans the shower. These are the extra steps we took to make sure that the truck drivers stayed safe, and same with the bathrooms. Even under those pandemic times, if you walk into the service plaza bathrooms, they are stocked and they're clean. And now, because the Thanksgiving rush is coming in, we have some concerns. I do want to point out that we are still under a state of emergency in the state of Ohio. So to everyone who's listening, please stop at our service plazas, but please abide by the rules in Ohio and the Department of Health and CDC guidelines. Masks are required when you go into a service plaza. Tom, it's not about how I feel or how you feel about the mask. It's about showing respect to the next person. If you are healthy and if I'm healthy and we don't have concerns about our immune systems, we have to think about people who may not be blessed with perfect immunity and who may have concerns with immunity or have loved ones at home. It's for them that we must wear those masks when we go out in public. We want to do the best that we can for our customers. And this is the cooperation that we would like from our customers, just to obey that. Also, the congregation. Thanksgiving rush is going to be Thanksgiving rush. If you see that it's very busy, just wait a few minutes before you go in. Let it clear out a little bit. We can't police it. We can't patrol it. We're not going to do that. But we're just going to ask for everybody's cooperation.
Yeah, definitely. And it's definitely something that I think we're all becoming to that realization that regardless of our particular feelings on what's going on, that, you know, that if we want to keep, as the governor said last night, if we want to keep the amenities that we're used to open, we need to all pitch in and put up the fight to be able to hopefully try to mitigate some of these increasing numbers. So I appreciate you bringing that to everyone's attention and everyone knowing what the impacts are. So some great news coming out of the platooning project on the Turnpike. So a lot of news on that. So I guess talk to us a little bit about that project and you know, given your engineering background and your technology background, talk to us a little bit about what you see in the future as that continues to develop.
Absolutely, that was really exciting. We are members of what's known as the Smart Build Coalition. It's made up of Ohio Turnpike and the Ohio Department of Transportation here in Ohio, Michigan DOT in Michigan, Pennsylvania Turnpike and the Pennsylvania DOT. And we also have industry and academic partners. So the idea was for all of these entities to work together to advance connected and autonomous vehicle technology. So I think we know that there are several extremely connected and some level of autonomous vehicles out there already. Some we know of, some we don't know of. And why are we doing this? What is the point? Well, it's you know, I've got on my vehicle, I've got blind spot monitoring. That's technology that tells me when something's on in my blind spot, and that's a wonderful thing. So the whole idea behind all this technology is simply safety. When we take the human interaction or the human reaction out as much as we can and make it more and more automated, we will have increased safety. There's no doubt about that. Cruise control, adaptive cruise control now, anti-lock brakes, that's all of that is about safety. So the truck platooning ultimately is also about safety, where the experiment that we did with the help of the Smart Road Coalition was a couple of trucks left Pittsburgh, went through the Ohio Turnpike into Detroit to deliver food to a food bank, a worthy cause. And what they wanted to do was make that entire journey in a platoon manner. We asked them, so how a platoon truck, in this particular example, how it worked. There were two trucks. The lead truck had a driver who was driving the truck. The follow truck had a driver who was not driving the truck. It was electronically connected to the front truck. They maintained a safe distance and so on. We asked the following driver to take over when going through a toll plaza or through a construction zone, just for added safety. For the toll plaza, as you know, we have to slow down, so that's a story anyway. Coming from the field as a former construction engineer, I felt that in a construction zone, I'd like for them to take over as well. That was probably not needed, but it just made me feel better. And it went off without a hitch. We got great media coverage on that. And people didn't even know that there was a truck next to them that was not being driven by a person, but a person was just standing there. So I think this long journey that they took through 3 states made us learn a lot. First of all, it's possible for us to cross state lines with this technology, and the fact that this technology is safe. Now, what we need to work on down the road is how we're going to manage this technology from state to state. I believe Pennsylvania has some rules in their revised code about how to manage autonomous technology. Ohio does not. We look at traffic. Whatever rules we have pertaining to traffic is what we have. So I think at some point, some smart people are going to have to get together and come up with some rules pertaining to autonomous technology, because we are going to see more and more of it. Down the road, it will also have an effect on how we manage our roads, how we maintain our roads, and how we design our roads. Currently, the roads are designed by the eye of the driver. It is assumed that there's a certain height in a vehicle, obviously much higher than an SUV or a truck, but vertical curves and horizontal curves and ramps and so on and so forth are all designed based on what we know about human reaction. When the human reaction goes away, and when all of that is going to be computerized, and when that technology develops to the point where it's extremely reliable, I guess some of the standards are going to change. So that's some of the things we're going to see in the future.
That's an interesting perspective. You know, I've been dealing with the autonomous vehicle thing for quite a long while, and I guess I never really even thought about how designers of roads take a look at that perspective of, you know, where that positioning of the driver is and how they react to that. So yeah, that's a great point. I guess I never even thought of that. So yeah, very exciting times. And I've said that time and time again is that, you know, when we were involved in the space race and all of the great things that came out of that pursuit, same thing here, you know, all the safety technologies and pieces, just little pieces that have changed the way the industry is and how much it is improved safety is worth the effort, definitely worth the effort. So, although I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk to our folks, I very much appreciate the manner in which the Turnpike has and continues to look at the users as customers. You know, that you all take a very enterprising look at, you know, how you provide services and how you improve the services that you offer and treat us truly as customers of your product. So very refreshing when dealing with infrastructure organizations like yours. So very much appreciate that. And again, Ferzan, thank you for your service to the state of Ohio and for coming on with us today. So again, appreciate that, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's been my pleasure.